So today, we're going to be talking about flying. No, not like we have superpowers, but how we humans fly in today's world. In a plane, of course. Though I'll be honest with you, being able to fly, that would be pretty awesome. But I digress. Planes are something to kind of behold. It's really kind of amazing when you think about it. In the whole bit of human history, over this last, probably 109, almost 20 years, we've actually achieved more innovation than we have in the whole other part of the history of mankind. We went from horses and carriages to all of a sudden having an automobile at the turn of the 1900s. And then from there, very quickly, we were flying. Flying in the sky. I'm sure humans have looked up at the sky for thousands and thousands of years, seeing birds and just being envious. And now, we get to do it like it's flossing. We just go and do it. And when you think about it, now, instead of traveling oceans and spending months at sea, you can be overseas in like 6, 7 hours. You can fly around the world now. Not that Santa Claus is actually possible, but yes, you can actually fly around the world in a 24-hour time period. So when I think of planes, I really, was really diving into God, like the lessons we can learn from plane. And the idea that planes can actually be an incredible symbol for life, incredible metaphor, that really shows us different things. Well, the next 3 weeks, we're going to be kind of diving into 3 specific aspects of planes and how they actually could kind of relate to our daily lives. And definitely bringing the spiritual concepts forward. So buckle up, put your tray tables up in the upright position, and relax as we go through these wonderful journeys together. And as I'm sure people, show of hands, who's actually been on a plane before? Let the record show it. Literally everyone in the room has been on a plane. So I've been fortunate to fly on a plane a lot. Actually so many times I don't think I actually can remember every single time I've been on a plane. One of the interesting things though I think I might have mentioned this before, is that my family is not from Massachusetts natively. So if I wanted to see my grandma, or my grandfather, or uncles, or cousins, I couldn't get in a car and then just go there. No, we actually had to get on a plane to travel there. So that was something that was kind of frustrating because my friends always had their parents and their relatives around there. I was not one of them, but I got to go on a plane a lot, which was a lot of fun. A lot of the plane rides we did were actually to the Midwest, where my mother has a lot of family out in the Midwest. So I traveled out there a lot. The Midwest has got some really cool things, but I think I remember maybe being like 10 years old, when I found out the truth that these grandparents that I was visiting out in the Midwest actually weren't my grandparents. They actually were my mother's grandparents. They were my great-grandparents, but I really didn't actually know that. So I think back all the times I got on the plane, I think, some of the, early memories of, the plane ride is, you're in the plane, you're all kind of nervous, or kind of exciting, like, wow, we're going to be soaring through the air. And then, of course, the flight attendants, they get up and they're going to give their little spiel. When, of course, the first time you see it, you don't really know what to expect. They're going to, we're going to do our safety check. So this is pretty important because, hey, planes can crash. Planes can have, things happen, which is kind of scary. So they kind of do the safety check and say, okay, your emergency exits, located here and here. Behind me, usually. That's usually how it goes, right? A lot of hand motions, and then they talk about, the safety, vest, and they put it on. They kind of demonstrate, okay, if our plane has to crash into the water, or make emergency landing there, you might want to put this flotation, vest on. This is usually a good idea. At this point, I'm starting am I just able to relax in this plane ride? There's a lot I gotta remember at this point. It's just getting a little bit scary. And I actually thought, my parents know about all this? What the heck are they, this isn't like some roller coaster. Yeah, something's happened, but okay. It's like, I feel like there's going to be a term paper at the end of all of this, and I hope I pass. And then they're talking about a safety card on it and everything like that. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess that's good. I hope that I remember in an event or emergency to look at the thing, because I'm not going to probably remember everything. And then they talk about these oxygen masks. And I'm like, where are they? Oxygen masks? They said, yeah, if the cabin loses pressure and everything like that, these oxygen masks are going to fall down. I'm thinking, oh great, this sounds lovely. And they said, oh yeah, make sure that when the oxygen mask falls down, you put on yours first, then put on your neighbor's. What? That seems a little selfish. Yeah, why don't you just keep, sucking in nothing? I hope you don't, die, and I'm gonna get my mask on, I'm good. My dad said, no, Matt, you gotta understand. If you don't put your mask on, you're not gonna be able to help anyone else. If you start running around and try to fix the plane and do all these different things, that's the safest, that is the most loving thing you could possibly do. I was like, there's a sermon in there. As life progressed, I realized there was. Life is full of chaos, just like a plane in duress. So the question you have to pose to yourself is, when a crisis hits, which life will always provide them, what do you reach for to save yourself? And once you do, will you help others do the same? To explore this concept further, I thought that there's got to be a good Bible passage that really screams out this concept. Then it dawned on me, the bronze snake. Intrigued yet? I hope so. I actually don't know where this is sermon going either. No, I'm just kidding with you. So this bronze snake with the Israelites, as we read the passage, it's an incredible example of what it's like when a plane's going down. No, the Israelites were not in a plane, though that would have made a pretty cool story. Wait, snakes on a plane. Wait, they did that. I think Samuel L. Jackson starred in that. I'll be honest with you, probably don't waste your time on that one. But this story, pretty cool. So the Israelites understand the idea of the crisis mode that they were in. Because think about it, when a plane's going down, it's just chaos. Everything's just breaking loose. You're terrified. So to get the picture of it, the Israelites, they're out in the desert, they're worn out, they're tired, they're hungry. It's important to think about what they just went through. They were in Egypt, minding their own business. A slave, which is horrible, but they had shelter, they had food, they had a daily routine. And then this Moses guy comes, says God said that he's heard your prayers. He's going to save you from the slavery. So 10 plagues later, Egypt is crippled. They end up at the Red Sea. And now the Israelites are a sitting duck as those Egyptians come running and going to slaughter them. And then God gets them and parts the Red Sea and allows them to have passage. Now they're roaming the desert. So you got to think of all these things that they went through. They saw things none of us have seen, despite what the movies might show you. To physically witness these things must have been a sight to behold. And now they're out in the desert. Things have kind of calmed down. But it gets scary. And they rebelled. And then now the Israelites have been already told, because you have rebelled, you guys are going to die here in the desert. You will not see the promised land that you have been yearning for. You will die. So you have that. They're out in the desert, tired, worn out, and this manna keeps coming down. Manna. Ugh. What an interesting food. The only time that mankind actually saw food raining down from the heavens. How many people in the world do you think today would love it if just food rained down from heavens? I'm not talking cloudy with a chance of meatballs, because that would be pretty awesome, but a little bit messy to clean up. How many people are starving in the world? Most, in fact. America and a few other countries are the exception that regularly have food. They had that, but they didn't want that. Just like a plane going through turbulence, life got chaotic, and they responded much like we do. They complained. They felt helpless. And so this manna was something that was interesting. It rained down every day for 6 days, but not the seventh. So the only day they could actually grab enough manna for 2 days was that sixth day. The seventh, they rest. So you really don't have food sources. Your main food source, you are relying on God to rain this food down. How does that make you feel? You feel very secure? What if it doesn't rain that day of food? I mean, how many times did the Israelites try to collect more food to prepare? And how many times did it become rotten except for on the sixth day? Every day. They were only allowed enough food each day. That's it. They didn't have extra stuff stored up in the cupboard. Everything in their life put them on edge. And honestly, that would wear anyone out. When that chaos sets in, now I'm playing, and that oxygen mask drops down, you got to reach up and grab it. And then your lungs will be filled with life-giving air. And it will set you at ease when you do that. Well, God did that every day. That's what that manna was. It was the oxygen mask. They were supposed to reach out and get that and enjoy them. But they didn't do that. They complained about this miracle food. So God said, fine. You want to be in charge of your own life? I'll let you. So what did he do? He let the snakes come in. And they started biting the Israelites. They started dropping like flies. I'm sure you guys have heard the phrase, there's no atheist in a foxhole. There was no atheists on those days in Israel. They ran, okay, we screwed up. They went to Moses, said, please have God save us. We are sorry. And what's interesting is this bronze snake that gets made. God says, the thing that is killing you, I'm going to take it and I'm going to put it up on a wooden pole. All you got to do is look at it and you will be saved. Kind of sounds familiar, don't you think? Maybe like John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whomever shall believe in him will not die, be saved. Think about it. The oxygen mask. That is what that bronze snake was to the Israelites. They already had manna. That wasn't good enough. So God gave them something more. What an image on how God takes the poison and makes it a symbol for life. Because when you think of the crucifix, I think a lot of us, we think of Christianity, right? We think of salvation. I don't want you to ever forget what the cross is. One of the most horrific capital punishments that have ever existed. The equivalent in modern day would be having a needle for lethal injection around your neck, or an electric chair, or the gas chamber, or a gun. Because that is what the cross is. The thing that poisons and kills, God made a symbol for life that we must hold on to. So Jesus, the bread of life, the manna out in the desert, the Lord really brought the Israelites out there to show them what they truly needed to survive. Not just out in the desert, but every day when they make it into the promised land. Because again, there's no atheists in a foxhole. What happens when things calm down? What do you stop reaching for? God. You got through it. All right, I'm good. I don't need him anymore. All right, the air is getting a little bit better out here. I don't need my oxygen mask anymore. They wanted to eat and grow and be in control. And that showed their lack of faith and their disdain of God's gift. That's what you got to remember. Manna was a gift. And they went, not the gift I want. You ever given someone a gift? And that look in their face when they open it and you're all excited and then they kind of go, oh, this is lovely. Just rip my heart out, why don't you? But this is the thing that God was dealing with them. They cared more about their own survival and on their own terms than their relationship with God. They were looking to not lose their life, and ironically, in the process, lost it. It's funny how that works that way. We look around and we say that there's no God because there's death and horror everywhere, without realizing the feast of suffering that we eat every day because we don't invite God into cook our food and to eat at our table with us. We have no room for God. in that. Manna, this magical food, was rejected. And that was not the last time that Israelites rejected God's manna. When they nailed Jesus to the cross, they showed that they did not want the manna of Christ. For Jesus declares in John 6, verses 32 to 35, that it was not Moses that gave the bread from heaven, but it was the Father who gave the bread as a gift from heaven. For the bread of God is the bread that comes down and gives life to the world. Remember, manna was everything nutritionally that the Israelites needed to survive in the desert. Now, when Jesus was speaking to the crowd, he was saying that, I'm going to give you the bread of life. It'll be everlasting. And they said, give us this bread. But Jesus had also said earlier, pursue bread that does not spoil, but endures to give you eternal life that only the Son of Man can give you. Just like manna in the desert, Jesus is the bread of life that will heal your spirit and your body on the whole. In addition, the bronze snake is as what Jesus was to us. Think about it. John 3:16. It's represented in that bronze snake. It's represented in the manna. It is represented in the cross. Jesus took our sin, that snake's venom. He took death and he transformed it into life. That's powerful. That's magical. That is special. And God wants us to eat of that bread. Ironically, when I was preparing this passage, I'm not going to lie to you, kind of forgot that it was going to be Communion Sunday. It's interesting how God kind of just connects this together, because we will be eating the bread. Symbolic, of course, and drinking the blood. Very much symbolic, too. But it's only then when we really breathe in, God, that this poison, this sin in our life gets pushed aside. This is truly a powerful lesson for all of us to really keep in mind. You're on a plane, the oxygen is leaving, there's maybe toxic fumes in the air. I mean, think about a plane. We've all seen movies where there's the plane, the turbulence. You might have probably experienced it. Maybe a door gets ripped open or a part of it, and people are getting sucked out. And that oxygen mask comes down, and you have to grab it, and you have to put it on and breathe in. We need the oxygen of God to survive, not just when the plane's going down, but when it's smooth sailing as well. Because, like I said before, on a plane, there's a lot of things in that air, right? What's a good way to get sick? Take a plane ride, because you are in a self-contained area. If there are germs, it will find you. And it is never fun with that. So you got to think to yourself, there's all these different things that could possibly be in the air. Dust, allergens, pollen, smoke, toxic fumes. If you breathe in bad things and your body's not able to process them, what happens to your body? Breaks down and dies. Kind of horrible. Just like poison in snakes. If the Israelites' bodies were able to deal with the poison, then it's not really poison. It really wouldn't matter. Their body couldn't handle the poison. It overwhelmed them and destroyed them. For bad things in the air, just like poison, prevents you from enjoying the freshness of the air of God. If it's in your lungs, God cannot be. This is what the Israelites didn't understand. They breathed in fear, and it filled them with just misery. It filled them with that lack of hopelessness. That's what they were breathing in. That's what they allowed into their body. And they could not handle it because the Lord's trust, peace, and humility was not there. And there are things in our life that we think are good to breathe in, that we think are safe. Things like negativity. How toxic is that? You ever been around someone who's very negative? Not for very long, right? What happens when you're that negative person? Think about that. Don't be so consumed with how others are. Be worried about what you're breathing in, and more importantly, as Jesus said, what you're breathing out to others. Now, constructive criticism is something that is important And that's very different than being negative on things. The Israelites, they absolutely felt suffocated, the desert emptiness. And the thing is, they started breathing in almost a hate. They hated the situation they were in. To be, honestly, I think they kind of hated God. Why would you bring us out here to die? We had Egypt's system. Yeah, we were slaves and it was horrible, but I had a place to rest. We had meat. We could eat meat. So it's interesting, the hate that you can breathe in and you let it affect you because God is not in there. His love is not there to push it away. How many times have you been driving and maybe you got a little angry? Hate because of the way that person drove. Now, it's not about letting them off the hook. If they're a terrible driver, well, it's a terrible driver. But look at the way that you had a reaction to it immediately. Tells you what's already inside of you. What if you're breathing in lies? You know, lies that you're spreading. Lies that maybe you are believing about yourself. What are the two worst lies that someone could tell you? You're horrible and you're amazing. It's not about not getting compliments, but your amazingness comes from the Lord. When you disconnect these things, you breathe in lies, and therefore you spread them. And they will cripple you and pollute you. How about jealousy? You ever look at someone else's life, think, wow, that would be really nice to have. Why should I not have a car? Or that beautiful spouse? Or that wonderful life? Why do I have to struggle every day? Why can't I just have everything and just be able to relax? Jealousy can absolutely cripple you and make you hate those that have what you believe you should. How about hallucinogens? You ever breathed in a hallucinogen? Don't worry, this is not a time of self-confession. What I'm really referring to is self-righteousness. It warps you like a drug. When you start focusing on how good you are and the talents you have, and wow, I'm a lot better than other people. How dare you treat me this way? Do you know who I am? I've actually had people do that when I worked at Marriott. It's kind of hilarious. I know Bill Marriott. Wonderful. I still don't have a room for you, sir. Not that I didn't want to get a room, just didn't have it. How about addictions? Addictions, all these things are in the air. They get us caught in this endless cycle of hope. And if you think you don't have an addiction, it means you probably do, and you're breathing in lies. You just may not have it in a way that is really, truly self-destructive. And it means you probably will end up on one of the TV shows that we see in today's world. And fear. The Israelites, as I said before, they breathed in so much fear. They looked all around them. That's all they could see was the fear. It corrupted them. They were in a constant defensive what-if mode. As things came about to them, they would attack it. They would go, oh, the defense mode. Oh, food. Come on, why do I have to eat all these different things? It got kind of almost violent to a degree. How often do we do that? Someone says something. Maybe attacks your character a little bit, and in your fear, you don't want to be inadequate. You don't want to be stupid. You kind of lash out at them and say, well, who the heck are you? Look at you. You're a piece of work yourself. Happens to all of us. Because we're not wearing an oxygen mask of humble and forgiveness. See, you got to examine yourself and say, where do I have these things in my life? Think every day, what am I really breathing in? And what am I really breathing out? How you know you're breathing in Jesus is when you're breathing out humility. When you breathe out love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. However, as I said before, we do not have these things in our lungs naturally. We have toxins already in us, and we have toxins all around us. You cannot stop the toxins in the world, and if you do, you're acting out of fear. I don't want the toxins to get in, so I'm going to isolate myself. I don't want to feel the pain. And the Lord wants you to do the opposite. He wants you to put on that oxygen mask so you can go out into the world and you can help others put on their oxygen mask as well. That's what real humility and love and joy look like in life, is it does not stay within you. It goes out like a breath to the person next to you. Brushing your teeth, you think about it. It's always a good thing, because if you've ever been next to someone that, maybe their teeth weren't the most brushed, that's not nice air to be breathing in. That's also an example of kind of sin. Not brushing teeth, I'm not saying that's not a sin if you don't do that. But it's that concept of, is the air that people are getting when they're next to you, what does it feel like for them? Or are you spreading toxins as well? So it's being self-aware, getting into the Word, spending time with God, spending time even with others. Hey, where am I failing? Where am I not putting a priority? I got this thing called a Bible. Is this also an oxygen mask? Yes, it is. Are you putting it on daily? Are you praying? These things alone will not save you. But it's when you have the Lord's oxygen mask that you desire it more, the pureness of that air. So let us be the ones who spreads the air of Jesus to all those that we meet. May we offer it in the same way that Jesus offered his manna, the bronze snake, and the cross, as a voluntary action where one looks to God and not to themselves or others. Take a moment now with me. Breathe in deep. Breathe in the Lord every second of every day. Let him be your oxygen mask. And let today be the day that you look at the cross. Let us pray. Dear Lord, there are so many times when life gets tough or complacent, and we do not look to you. We do not trust you, and we're not always full aware on how we don't trust you. You've given us the cross, the manna. You've given us the bronze snake. You've given us the examples of what it looks like practically to be holding on to you, to be breathing in you. For your breath pushes out our toxins and allows us to be truly living and to share that with others, Lord. Thank you that you are patient in this process. Thank you that you did not give up on us, despite how many times when you drop that oxygen mask, we deny it. We look to other things, and we think that, you know what, I'll be okay without it, when that's never going to be the case. You are amazing, Lord. Thank you so much. In Jesus' name, amen.